Hi, thanks for stopping by my art channel. This watercolor tutorial is based on an oil painting by mid-19th century English artist Joseph Crawhall. Joseph Crawhall specialized in painting animals and birds. This particular painting, known as In the Paddock, is based on an equine subject, and the primary focus is on the horse and the jockey. The outline of the horse and the jockey is loosely sketched, keeping the anatomical proportions in mind. Since the background is just a backdrop and has no man-made object, I chose not to sketch anything. The background will consist mostly vegetation, hence it is intended to be painted solely with brush. I exclusively use a mechanical pencil to sketch as it is easier to maintain. I use Staedtler 0.7 2B graphite pencil and erase using kneaded eraser. I intentionally marked my drawing dark as I would eventually cover it with masking fluid. Once I would remove the masking fluid, it will remove some lines and make them lighter, sufficiently enough that I could continue to see the outlines. I also penciled some features of the horse, which would act as a guide when I would paint them. Once I was satisfied with the drawing, I proceeded to mask the subject using a masking pen and a masking fluid. I used masking pen to delicately outline the silhouette and then filled up the body with masking fluid. I then allowed the medium to dry completely before applying any paint. The intention to study the works of past masters is to learn from them. Since this is my interpretation in watercolor of the original one in oil, the exact replication is neither possible nor desirable. How did the past masters deal with light and composition, detail and abstraction is a matter of great study and deliberation. As pale solution of cobalt blue was applied as sky color, it is imperative to leave some paper white to avoid monotony of blue sky. While it was still moist, I dropped some distant trees with just mere vertical stroke of brush. The consistency of the pigment for distant trees should be slightly thicker than the underlying blue paint. Timing is the key. The paint should not be allowed to dry completely. Hence, a spray from spray bottle should be given intermittently to keep things slightly moist. The rate of drying varies from place to place and from weather condition to weather condition. Also, if you use ceiling fan, as many do in tropical Asian climate, things will quickly dry out, leaving you less time to work on your painting. Hence, it is advisable to dial down the regulator of ceiling fan or better use air conditioner. As watercolors are generally non-toxic, painting in closed environment is safe, unlike oils. At the right hand top corner, I have depicted a rough layout of my color palette. I use two color palettes, one for keeping and storing pigments, and another palette for mixing and preparing colors in large quantities. Therefore, the palette at the top, which is broken but still usable, has large wells, and I always prepare more color than I would eventually require. Beginners tend to under-prepare color, and here one must gradually train to slightly over-prepare quantities. I generally do not talk much about colors, although important, but come second to importance to tonal values. Nevertheless, if you wish to know the colors that I use, they are as follows: cobalt blue, cobalt teal or turquoise green, olive green, lavender, French ultramarine, carmine, purple, neutral tint, cadmium red, cadmium orange, raw umber, burnt sienna, cadmium yellow, Naples yellow, yellow ochre, Chinese white, warm grey and cool grey. Occasionally I use cerulean blue, not shown here. As you can see, the background to the horse has been done with moist to moist technique, not wet to wet technique, with each subsequent pigment slightly denser. My intention was to capture the general visual pattern of the foliage with leaves and flowers, leaving altogether a fuzzy background, acting as an ideal background for the horse and the jockey. I used dry paper towel to lift some areas from here and there. Once the background was completely dry, I removed the masking layer using a cement rubber picker. This is a crucial stage as the masking layer should be picked up gently, rubbing with the cement picker. Otherwise, you may tear the paper. In most cases, and with the good quality paper and masking fluid, it shouldn't be a problem. A pale orangish, warmish brown solution was prepared that would act as my first wash. Intuitively, whenever the wash would get warmer than desirable, it was cooled down by adding a touch of lavender, all done wet on wet. The slight bluish lavender sheen on the backside is because it tends to reflect the blue sky. If one can simplify in their mind the anatomy of the figure into simple platonic solids like cylinders, cones, and spheres, one gets a better understanding of the nature of shades and cast shadows of the subject. The face can be assumed to have a conical structure that could help us understand the nature of shades and shadows when exposed to unidirectional source of light, in this case the sun. The face has some wonderful features that give a horse some peculiar artistic expressions. For example, protruding veins. I used hungry brush to lift pigments to get the effect of protruding veins. A hungry brush is nothing but a sufficiently dried brush, which can be made by wiping out excess water from the brush. The folds on shirts must be realistic and believable. Any attempt to throw some random crisscross of rendering will make the fabric folds unrealistic. If necessary, slow down while you paint them. This is the third and final layer to bring more punch and also to make the tonal value in harmony and congruity with the tonal quality of the rest of the body. The leather shoe is not exactly black. It is a mix of all dark colors in my palette along with the neutral tint. Also carefully note the specular highlight on the shoe. It was left pepper white and is in sharp contrast with the rest of the shoe. This treatment simulates the effect of high polish. If you like this demonstration, consider supporting me on my Patreon channel, where supporters on a monthly pledge would receive full-length, more than 2 hours long demonstration videos with voiceovers, along with other bonus materials. Check the link in the description box for more information. I used a touch of opaque colors by mixing with by tinting white gouache with colors like yellows and olive greens to get some marks indicating leaves. Also some thick paint like lavender directly from the palette to put some marks indicating flowers. The subject was not quite popping out, so once again, to increase the contrast, I had to put some purpley greeny darks right behind the horse. This is a stage of putting some marks in white and light opaque colors. A stage can be rightly called a stage of ornamentation. This stage should be judiciously exercised with caution and must not be overdone. I am almost finished.